Good afternoon. Welcome again to the Harrisburg Rotary Club. Happy to see everybody here today. And again, another busting crowd here. We'll keep adding more tables as we need to. And so we're excited about that. But we will launch, as we always do, with the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do.
First is the truth. Second is fair to all concerned. Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships. Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned.
We get led by Ash again today. God bless America.
That's right. God bless America. Land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Now let's turn to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And today's invocation is led by Eric Cotting.
Please pray with me. Heavenly Father, we come to you again with grateful hearts that we can be in this place. We can enjoy the benefits of friendship in our community and be nourished by this good food. I pray that you would help us to live into the ideals of this club and to build relationships that spur our own imaginations regarding how we can better impact our community, that it would be a place where all would flourish. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Dan, come on up.
Good afternoon. Hey, we have two guests with us. Our speaker, Bryan Hutcheson, is here. Welcome, Bryan. And we've got Ken McNulty here, Harrisonburg favorite news anchor. Welcome back. And those are our guests. Welcome.
All right. So a number of things I want to go over today as far as announcements. Again, I will mention, first of all, the district conference that we had this weekend in the Salem Civic Center. And it was a good experience, really good experience. It was a lot of informational speakers. And next week, we plan to have a couple of us share just a little bit about our experiences there. But we learned a lot about Rotary and all the great things. You can see the star here. Our club participated in the Build-A-Bed project, which 100 beds built to be distributed in our district. And so it was a great event. There was a sock project for those in need, and as well as just lots of inspiring speakers. I was also impressed by the amount of turnout we had from our club. So if you were at district conference from our club, could you stand, please? All right, that's great. So yeah, I think appreciate you all coming, and I believe in addition, Andy Van Hook was there for most of the weekend. So pretty good representation when we look around at the different clubs and to see our club very well represented. I also will mention again, and you'll probably stop hearing from me on this in a week or so. We're looking for board members. Again, come see me. Tap the person sitting beside you on the shoulder, say you would make a great board member. But we've got some exciting people interested. So we, again, right now, and looking at the schedule, it's going to be early April that we actually do the presentation of the slate of board members. So again, I want to keep that in front of us. So I also want to make another announcement just way down the road. Our club partnered with Valley Fest this past year and was an incredible, successful fundraiser. And it was in May. This year they had to slide it till August because of some projects that Massanutton's having done on the resort. So just be aware that we'll be getting information on that in the summer, how to get signed up. But we do have a service project coming up this Saturday. And again, Noah will continue to send information out through the club, through Michael. If there is a weather, it looks like there could be some weather. So we'll make a decision on Friday. It's going to be tearing down a playground. So just show up. We need bodies. I will be there. Bring your own tools, although primarily, I think at least one gentleman I heard is going to be bringing a chainsaw. But another one or two probably wouldn't hurt. So it's going to be tearing apart things. And we've got a couple guys back there that really dig hard on service project, Maynard and Dennis, and we're looking forward to them. I understand you guys may be there. So we'll get it done, but it's a great way to give back to the community. We also will be at some point sending sign-up opportunities for the RAM clinic for parking again. Our club is not taking ownership or leadership of that, but we certainly, they need volunteers. So we'll be getting information about that and other service opportunities. So yeah, thanks again for all that are joining in and helping us serve our community. And also, we look forward to inducting another member next Monday, so we continue to have more in the pipeline. So that's exciting to see our club growing. So with that said, I'm looking forward to our speaker today, a good friend of mine, and Rodney will make the formal introduction here.
We are excited to have Bryan Hutcheson here today, the sheriff. Before I introduce him, I was struggling with my schedule, and I have most of the speakers for the rest of the year filled out, but next week I was just having a hard time with. So it is listed on the rotograph as to be determined, and so this morning I did get confirmation that Jeff Bourne, the director of athletics from JMU, will be here next week. So just since we didn't get that out on the rotograph, just wanted to share that. But today we have Sheriff Bryan Hutcheson, who was elected in 2011 and is up for re-election this year. Prior to becoming sheriff, Bryan spent 16 years with the Virginia State Police in a variety of assignments, including state trooper, special agent, sergeant, and first sergeant. He also spent 2 years as chief of police in Woodstock. Sheriff Hutcheson graduated from Virginia Tech with a bachelor's degree in business administration and has received his master's degree in criminal justice from VCU. Sheriff Hutcheson is the 66th sheriff of Rockingham and Harrison. So welcome, Bryan.
I think I got it right here. I believe. I think this one. Take that and then I go to
I'll
this.
turn this one off and you turn that one on.
Sounds like we're on. All right, let's see. A little higher.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, now we're good.
Yeah, we're great.
Okay. You want loud, but you don't want too loud. You don't need to hear me. You don't need to hear me, but so loud. But thank you to the Rotary for having me here with you today. Thank you, Wayne, for inviting me. Certainly a pleasure to be here with you and be able to share a little bit of information with you here today. Certainly, what I kind of wanted to plan to do is cover a few things more from an overview sense of things. We're talking about the sheriff's office, and then hopefully allow time if anybody has anything specific, any questions or concerns that you might have on your mind, then something that yeah, hopefully if I don't have the answer, I'll find out the answer for you if it's something that you're interested in knowing about. But from an overview standpoint of the sheriff's office, I'll start with the most basic. One thing that some folks that they don't really take into consideration is it's the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office, but we also serve the city too. So thinking about, election year this year, I gotta hopefully get reelected to keep my job, which, I'm hoping for, but it serves, the city as well as the county. And then I'll still get some people that you don't really look at it that way because it's not in the title, but it's very much that. And it's 5 areas of service that we provide. So 3 of them we provide exclusively to the county and the city. And then 2 of our service areas, we're pretty much primarily for the county. So I'll talk a little bit about all 5 of them, but what they are is for civil, process, we do that exclusively. We run the jail for the city and the county exclusively, and we handle court security and transportation for the whole locality. And then the two areas that's primarily for the county is patrol, as well as our investigations division. And the reason for that is, well, the city has a police department, and we work very, very well with them. It kind of is like this: if the really the way it usually works is if the city gets very busy on something, if they have a major incident somewhere, that's when they'll say, hey, since we are still for the city, we'll come handle the small stuff while they have a lot of their staffing tied up on the big stuff. We'll help them out. We'll handle the small calls for service if they have a big crime. So it works out very well in that regard. We work together very well. So from an overview standpoint, what I was going to kind of do is just really touch on some numbers, just so you have I guess, an idea of the quantity of things that we do each year. So these are the numbers from last year, from 2022. And so for the patrol division, our total calls for service handled was 41,325. And that's a pretty good jump. The year before, I brought those just for more curiosity's sake, we had 36,563. So you're talking going up, about 5,000, which is, a pretty good little increase. And those calls for service could be anything from a vehicle broken down to somebody trespassing to, somebody being the victim of a more serious crime. So anything that we respond to is a calls for service, but clearly we're not getting less busy. The job security is good. It's definitely steady. And then one of the things really for the patrol side of it that has also gone up significantly is the ECO TDOs. And I don't know, some of y'all are probably very familiar with that, some of you might not be, but the ECO is an emergency committal order, where if someone is in a crisis of normally some kind of a mental health type of deal, and they might be, really the key for that is they might be in danger of harming themselves, then they can be what's called ECO'd. There's either, I won't get too much into the specifics, but basically you can take somebody non-voluntarily to go get help. That's what an ECO is. And then a TDO is when they determine at the hospital, usually say RMH, they'll say, well, this person needs more advanced care, and then a TDO will come into place. But if you look at that, the year before that, we had 219 in 21, and then in 2022, we had 320. So that's keeping us busy, and especially when you consider that those things are not just like, one of those calls for service could be quick. Hey, debris in the roadway, I cleared it up. Hey, mark me clear, I'm good. But an ECO TDO is usually very, very time consuming. It's very involved. So that thing is going up. The point that I'll make there too is a lot of times, usually in one way or another, it's related to drugs. Now, whether it's prescription stuff that they should be taking and aren't, or if it's stuff that they shouldn't be taking and are, it could be either one. Usually we'll see a good balance of both. But that's the thing. There's mental health part of it too, but it's the lack of or improper medicating of that causes some, some pretty can be wild scenarios. We had one the other night. From a patrol standpoint, also 3,748 animal control calls. I thought is a little interesting. Just kind of throw you random nuggets out here. That one, when you think about Rockingham County, what those are: horses, cows, deer, sheep. We got a little bit of everything here, and we have 2 full-time animal control officers. And when they're not working, of course, whoever's on patrol responds to those. But it's a significant amount just with that alone. With the funeral escorts, I thought was another interesting one. We had 172 funeral escorts last year, and that's a number you hate to see, going up, but it was 15 more than the year before. Again, I guess that's, this is the way it goes. But those sometimes too, they take up some time. But I feel like, especially for when we were able to have our motorcycles do it, I think anytime we can do something for someone like that and help the family in that time is the least we can do. So I'm one that, we don't turn down funeral escorts. We'll do it. That's the least we can do for those folks. 463 motor vehicle crashes last year. For investigations, a couple nuggets there. They handled a total of 470 criminal investigations. 362 of those were what's called general investigations. We had 108 of those were drug task force investigations. So those folks stay busy with the drug stuff. And then not included in that, but I think is worthy of pointing out, is we had 22 ICAC cases. And we're a member of the ICAC task force, which is Internet Crimes Against Children. And so for me, that's something that's vital. It's important. Just like, we're not turning down a funeral escort. Well, we're not we're not turning down a case that you have a child as a victim. I think they're really even put some of the violent crimes in the fold, a crime against a child, a minor, a juvenile, and some of the stuff that we see, it's just deplorable. And that's not something that we take lightly. We get, as being a member of that task force, we get funding. We get grant funding for equipment, for training, as well as to help out or offset some of the staffing overtime that goes with those cases. So we had 22, which is what you figure, almost 2 of those a month that we had. And then we ended up placing 11 charges for ICAC charges, which again, that's somebody that's getting arrested for a crime against a child. So we're a part of that. And thanks to the state police for that. They're the ones that kind of coordinate it, and we're in there on it with them. And it's unfortunately, busier than we would like to see, but we stay, we do what we got to do. For the courts, now kind of getting to the 3 areas that we provide for everyone. And if it's the towns, the city, the county, we provide it exclusively for our locality, is the court security and transportation. There's 2 parts to that. The court security part, I think, again, sometimes it's one of those things that can be overlooked because you just kind of take it for granted. But we have 3 courts right up the street here, General District Circuit and JDR. But in any time that a judge is at the bench, well, we have to have a bailiff there too. So we also have security at the door to come in, and then we have security anytime that court's in session. With the judges at the bench, gavel in hand, that kind of thing, well, we have a bailiff there for the security of the courtroom itself. So that's something that when you consider the fact they had 1,365 total sessions of those 3 courts last year, those folks are not sitting around twiddling their thumbs. And then when you partner that with the transportation part, which just in-state, we did 1,265 in-state transports last year, and the miles for in-state inmate transports was 154,554. So we basically burn a car a year doing in-state transports, going to Middle River, going to Charlottesville, going to RSW, wherever it might be. But that's getting inmates to the court dates that they're required to appear before right here. And out-of-state transports, we did 56, and that's trips to 13 different states. So if someone gets arrested in another state, one year we went to Puerto Rico 3 times to bring an inmate back. They get picked up down there, they notify us that you have active outstanding charges, but they don't care, like not just to single out Puerto Rico, but whether you take out, I think one of them we went to this year was like Utah, but they're in Utah and we're done with them. We got them, whatever we arrested them for. Do you want them or not is how that phone call goes. We got this person and then we look them up. Yeah, we want them. So they're not bringing them to us. It's the local charges we got to go get. Generally, our rule of thumb on that is we fly if it's west of the Mississippi. We drive if it's east. I mean, sometimes there's exceptions to that. If you're talking about like Miami or certainly Puerto Rico, you don't have any choice. But for what we can drive to, we do. But at some point, you get to that threshold of, well, it's cheaper and more economical to fly if you have to go that far. And you name it, really, you name the state, and we've been there. I know last year we went to Michigan 3 times. So that's one of those, you're just better off to fly. But we have to get those inmates. And likewise, people say, well, that's kind of a bad deal. But likewise, that's a double-edged sword, because if we have somebody that one of them wants, it's the same thing. We call them, hey, we're done. When you come, because we're not staying here. You're not staying in our local jail on your charges from, Pennsylvania. If you want them, tell me when you get in here. Otherwise, it's done deal. So, but there's a lot of the transport element of that court security and transportation. It stays very, very busy, and it's sometimes one of those unseen things. The civil side of it, serving all civil papers, non-criminal papers for the whole locality, town, city, and all. Last year, we did 23,905 civil papers that we served. So that's not, with a relatively small unit like 5 people, that's not letting any grass grow under their feet either. They stay really busier than they want to be. The 1,350 warrants in debt that they did, and I also thought a little nugget of interest was the 26 repossessions, a repo of something. So that's over 2 a month repos. So anyway, that's a civil process, but they stay very busy on that unit doing our locality. And then from a records perspective, in general, we did exactly, I had to double check this number because it seemed odd to be on an even number, but we did 4,000 fingerprints in 2022. And I look back, well, the year before that, we did 3,807, 3,807. But it just worked out that we did exactly 4,000 fingerprints. That's criminal and non-criminal. We have a computer machine for both. If you come in the back door you're on the criminal one. If you come in the front door, let's just say if you got an employer or somebody that makes you get them, you get to come in the front door. Don't go around back. You come on in the front, and it's a nice little setup. It's friendly and all that. It's very quiet. It's isolated. But if you come in the back door, you're just dealing with whoever happens to be back there, and you get fingerprinted when you get fingerprinted. But combine those two, non-criminal and criminal, was 4,000 on the button last year. 4,316 protective orders entered, and essentially what that is it's a domestic situation of some sort where you can't go near me or I can't go near you. It's a court-ordered, forbidden type of situation due to whatever happened in that relationship. So there's no let up on that. The year before that, we did 3835. So you're talking about 5,000 more protective orders in 2022. Attribute that to whatever you want to attribute it to, but it's staying busy with that. And then let's see, last but not least, I hope I'm not rambling to cover it all quick. On the jail side of things, which again, if you get arrested within the geographical confines of Rockingham County, doesn't matter if you're on JMU campus or in the town of Bridgewater, anywhere within the Rockingham boundaries, you come to our place. You're ours. And so you're brought in. We averaged right at, for last year, we had pretty much, it stays close to this for a little bit beyond a year, but 325 inmates is what we had here. And then 175 at Middle River. So we partnered with Middle River. Some of y'all may know that, some of you may not. Several years ago, at least probably 6 years ago, due to the overcrowding, we got to where we were way over what we could safely house here. And really 325, we should be more at like 310. So to say we averaged 325 last year, we're 15 over probably what we should have. And then some of that's just the nature of the business. At least that's not as bad as the highest that I can remember it being was like 390. You're almost at 400 at our place, which again, 300 is about right. So that's bad. You have daily fights when you have that level of overcrowding, daily. Believe that, because you're three in a cell that's not very much bigger than somebody's going to say something. And so when it was that bad, it was really, really bad. But now with Middle River, it's kind of balanced out some. So we have about 500 what are called locally responsible inmates. So they're Harrisonburg, Rockingham inmates, but we're able to use the Middle River as an overflow with some of that, or else we would have had, we couldn't. 500 is not even in a possibility to have in our building with the limited space we have. So that tells you a little bit. It came down a little for the majority of COVID. The Department of Corrections, they had the luxury of saying, well, for safety concerns, we're not taking inmates. That's just what they say, and they wave the magic wand in Richmond, and it is deemed to be so. And I guess, whatever your thoughts about that governor are, he's the one that let it happen. And so they got that luxury. Well, then what happens? All the local jails, we're overwhelmed. So we were overcrowded, they were overcrowded, and then we're being told, hey, keep everybody quarantined and safe. Don't y'all get sick in there, right? There was no closing down. We were open for 24/7 ever since we opened, and we always will be. There was no work from home. There's no, let's do whatever. Like, we're open, right? We're open. Our CSO, you come in our lobby at 3:30 this morning, and there's going to be somebody that says, hi, how can I help? We're open 24/7. And so they kind of just said, well, we're not taking them. And then, of course, it was felt locally, Middle River, and us too. It was really at a point of, and you may recall, Middle River was going to have to do something because we already determined it couldn't be here. And I think our location is good. It's just our capacity is not. But down there, they have extra space in Verona. And so it was getting ready to be, we have to do something. And then fortunately, it kind of came out of the pandemic, and DOC changed their policy and said, okay, well, we'll start taking some more inmates now. And then that eased. Middle River went from, like, to show you how drastic it was, probably within a 6-month time period, they went from, say, 850 inmates down to like probably below 650 once the DOC started taking those inmates. So they went from bursting over, and now they're back down. I think they might even be below 600 now, which is good. Them being below 600 is like us being below 300. It's nice. You actually have some space to function and do things that you need to be doing. But the DOC has been very good about catching up. It was just they got a little couple-year break there that would have been nice to have, especially when you're being expected to to quarantine and don't have anybody get sick. Which I'll lead, that kind of leads to my other point. In 2022, maybe one of the things I was most proud of was kind of along those lines, because we had our jail doctor, who was a superman. I mean, a wonderful, wonderful guy. I don't know how we would have made it through 2021 and whatever point of maybe even a little bit into 22 without the guy. The guy was wonderful. And so I can't toot his horn enough. I don't know we'd have made it through. The Department of Health would have shut us down. But, and I'll also note, because of him, we didn't have we had no deaths. We had no major hospitalizations. Sure, we had a few positive tests, but we didn't have people dying on the floor, right? And I credit that. The staff deserves credit as they should be, but this doctor was really enough to where he told the Department of Health, look, we can't do that, right? We're an overcrowded jail. We're going to do the best we can. Here's the system that we came up with this guy. And it you know, it worked. I mean, in fact's a fact. It worked amazingly well, and I give him the credit. Well, anyway, so the early part of last year, he comes to me and says, hey, I'm retired. Oh, man. And at that time, it was probably about this time last year, probably February, that he tells me he's retiring. Super guy. I'm like, oh, man. Well, then you initially think, okay, well, we got to get a different jail physician, and then we'll be fine. Because we have to have a jail physician, right? We have nurses on staff 24/7. And then the doctor comes once a week. And he's on call if you got a problem. Obviously, we go to RMH if it's something immediate, but if not, our jail physician our jail, much like a normal physician tends to the folks that he has on his or her, normal visitor list. So anyway, at that time, I thought, okay, we'll get a new jail physician. And it didn't take a few weeks before I realized, because the line of people that want to be a jail physician is right here, right? There's the line. The line's there is no line, right? It's actually the opposite of that. There's 5 of them in the room. They're probably hiding behind that curtain, or the ones that I could maybe talk into it are hiding from it. So it was unbelievable. I mean, it took, and I literally, my jail directors, I had my patrol captains. I mean, it's like, all right, everybody, by probably like May or June, it was like, this is everybody's problem. My problem, my secretary's problem, the captain's problem. We got to find a daggone doctor, because he said he's going. Unfortunately, if he hadn't done this, we'd really been a problem. But he said he wanted to go November 1, which is fair enough. You tell me in February, what more can I ask from you, man? You give me 7 months or whatever it was notice. And so literally, it was going down. The summer came and went. Now we're in the fall, and we're talking no, heck no. Worse than that, no, right? and then finally, yeah, it wasn't pretty. I got used to the door or the phone, click, click, click. But finally, we found an individual. It did take some negotiation. It wasn't a yes. It was a hey, think about it and call me back. And then he called me back with a question. And hey, what about this? All right, let me see what I can do, and I'll get back to you. It was like probably 3-level negotiation at least that we did with this gentleman. And it worked out perfectly. Right about the end of October, he decided he would do it. Our current doctor said, I'll stay for a couple more weeks to help get him up and running and acclimated. And the transition was seamless, but it was seamless, like down to the very wire. But that is something that, you don't really think about until you're in the middle of it, because it is absolutely vital to have a good one. And so far, 3-4-ish months in, the new doctor is really, really good. And you have to have a knack for it. And it certainly appears he does. So we're very blessed for that. 2 other things real quick I'll say about the jail, and I'll be quiet, was in 2022, we had 2 jail audits. So the DOC, again, I know I'm on camera, but I'd say if the DOC was here, bless your heart. The DOC sitting in Richmond on the throne that gets to say when they're open, when they're closed, and all these other, dictates. Well, they get to do the audits of our facility. So there's an unannounced that they just can come in and show up. So we had one of those last year as well. We also had one that was planned where they say, hey, we're coming on April 15th. That one, as well as the one where they just showed up and said, and it's a random thing, show us your files on this, show us your files on that, we need to go check A, B, and C. And so both of those inspections, one planned and one surprise or random, we passed both of those inspections with no findings, with 0 findings. And that's, not easy to do. And the DOC is diligent as, don't come to another inspection if you see this. But they are diligent as they should be, but it's when you make up the rules, it's easier to follow. So, I gotta stop, I gotta change. But anyway, I'm proud of the fact that we passed the vote, announced and unannounced, no findings for the jail. So that's another little 2022 nugget that I'm proud of. And that's probably covering an overview and then some. But if anybody has questions or any other items they're interested in, let me know.
Okay, so we'll get some questions here. I have one. So it sounds like you are busy.
It has been steady.
So one number I'd be interested in is how many folks work for the department?
So for the
For the sheriff's.
for the whole sheriff's office, counting everything, civilians, jail, investigations, the whole sheriff's office is almost pretty much right about 180. And again, it's 24/7. We never close.
And how's your recruiting going?
That has been an amazing challenge. It literally has. When I started as sheriff, talking about 2012, how it would work is we would get 25 applications in. I mean, they're coming in every day. And I would wait until we got, with no recruiting, zero recruiting. We'd wait till we got about 25, which would take a month or two. And then myself and 2 others would screen them, cut it down to about 10. And then we'd interview 10. We'd cut the 10 to 5, do backgrounds, and hope to hire 3. That was literally how it worked. And then here, flip the script, passed COVID, passed, defund the police. To get any applications it's the same way. I tell everybody, you're not only for the doctor, but you're a recruiter. I mean, we recruit anywhere we go. I was at MTC the other day. Any of our SROs will tell them if anywhere you go, you've got to be seeking out the applications because they just don't come in like they did before. But we have been very fortunate in we'll get down 5 or 6 positions and then we'll be able to hire 3 or 4. It's kind of 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. So today I think we're down 3, which is not insurmountable. Once you start hearing about different agencies, and I know that I've heard high numbers from other agencies where you're down a couple dozen or more, it's hard to play catch up because they have to go to the academy and be trained. But we've been very blessed and again, from them coming to us, not even have to try to get applications to calling people, asking people anywhere you go, the schools, the 7-Elevens, we recruit. I mean, I don't want to name too many businesses because we probably recruited there. We went to a graduation, one of the funny story, one of the graduations for our jail deputies was last week one day. And I saw a guy that I knew that was at it. He was in plain clothes. And so I saw a guy that I knew as I was coming out and I said, hey, if you want to come to work for Rockingham, come on home. Come on, let's work for the sheriff's office. And he kind of was like, well, my boss is behind you. And I'm like, oh, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. But I'm like, hey, if you need to come to Rockingham, give me a call. It's a little bit shameless, but it's active recruiting that we do. And we've been able to keep it from being too dramatic. It's been an issue.
What percentage of your officers live within Rockingham County?
The vast majority. There's a few that live, we have a few in West Virginia, a few in Augusta, maybe a couple in Shenandoah, but the vast majority do. And as far as the patrol goes, our policy on that is if you're 15 air miles from the county line, then you have a take-home car. If you live farther than that outside the county line, then you drive your own vehicle. Yes, sir.
What is the diversity of your employees?
I would have to look that up to tell you, to really get into the numbers there. I know at one point somebody had FOIA'd, the number of females that we had. And again, I'm off the top of my head to say, I think at that time it was maybe 26, 27 that we had for females. And then of course we have, I think, a pretty diverse, all things considered, agency. But to give specific numbers, I would have to pull up the roster and say. But I know at that time when the FOIA for the female deputies one came in, that we had heard back that really we were higher than a lot of the agencies were with that number. And I might even be lowballing that to say 24, 25, but we try. And again, we recruit anywhere we can go, anybody, and we encourage. It's totally open opportunity, young, old, female, male, you go down the line. Hey, if you're willing to work, we're willing to talk to you. Yeah.
I hear and read a lot about gang-related activities in surrounding areas, particularly Stanton, Albemarle County, Charlottesville. I'm sure it's here as well. Could you speak to that?
Yes, I think it's always there, especially you hear about it a little bit more prevalent in the city because you'll have these little clips or these little cliques or offshoots that consider themselves to be like Crips or Bloods. They're the, the Kelly Street Crips or whatever, and they think they're something, but it's something that we take seriously, and we have usually it's the folks that work on the drug task force that kind of stay up on that, because big surprise, it overlaps gangs and drugs and violence. It's all in the same family. But intel is a big part of it, and another big part of it is, and this is no secret, that even within the gangs, or if they're self-associated as gangs, there's no honor among thieves. And so when one gets in trouble, then they're so quick. That might be my brother in the Bloods, or my, what was it? Juggaloos was one of them we heard recently. And it's like, okay, Juggalo, but your brotherhood, it starts to end when you're sitting at 25 South Liberty Street. And now you're saying, well, here, you got me on this, but here's this guy who did it. Boom, boom, boom. And they rat each other out like you wouldn't believe. And we love it. But you take them seriously. And I think with gangs, and on a smaller scale than with drugs, you don't necessarily win the war. You fight the battles. Like with drugs, meth is still the thing around here. You talk about our task force, they see in a little bit of everything, but meth is the Rockingham County drug. That is it, meth. It's a drug of choice. That's just what it is. And so we don't win it, but we fight it, and we try to minimize it into where, just like with gangs, don't let them get out of control. You let the drugs, they're going to be what they are, but don't let them get out of control either, especially with the kids.
So I've got an obligation to wrap us up here in about a minute, but I'm going to ask a quick one. Topic of the day, the issue around the country of police escalation. Have you felt that has been an issue in your force, and is there specific training that your officers go through in regards to that?
Right, and now some of that has been mandated since it became, the issue going back a couple of years with Minnesota and all that. There was training prior to that, and then what's happened since is it's been more, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think to say, well, we got to do more, intervention is one, and de-escalation is another. All of those things are important, and to say you're enhancing that or requiring more, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's one of those deals where the most frustrating thing with that whole deal is you're painting everybody, you're painting the profession under the same broad brush as some bad apples, and that was what really, and we're still recovering from that, because again, I don't know the guy in Minnesota. We don't teach people to do that. We give people help as soon as we can get them help. And I've been doing this, but this makes 29 years that I've been in law enforcement, and I haven't seen it. I honestly haven't seen, and I haven't met the man or woman that woke up that morning and said, I'm hurting somebody today. That's my goal, to go on shift. I'm gonna knock somebody, pop somebody, strike somebody, whatever. I haven't met it. Not only have I seen it, I haven't even really heard about it firsthand. You see these awful videos from other places, and then, okay, I get it. There's bad cops, there's bad teachers, there's bad anything. We've arrested teachers. That don't mean the teachers are bad. There was a bad teacher, right? We've arrested some teachers around here for some bad things. But the teachers don't necessarily, I love teachers, but they don't necessarily get painted with the broad brush. It's a bad teacher. But with cops, it's a profession. It's law enforcement, defund them. They're bad, they're crooked, and they don't care. No, there's the bad apples. I think you deal with them harshly. And then you provide them more training. I think that's all a good thing, the de-escalation, the intervention. That's what we had encouraged. That's what we continue to encourage. And you understand, usually you're on camera these days, and it needs to be a good watch, because sometimes what's being used in the news is like a 30-second clip of a 28-minute encounter. And so you could almost take a segment out of what I just said today, and it doesn't sound so great, right? But you take an encounter with somebody that's that long and violent or whatever, doesn't want to be arrested, or a bad guy or girl, well, then you take that select segment and it doesn't look so great, but sometimes in its entirety, it's not that bad. But when they are bad, like some of the ones we've seen, you deal with them as the bad apple that they are, and you don't think that everybody else is bad. No, we don't condone that. We don't train that way. We don't perform that way. And don't lump us in with the ones that choose to do that. I think if you look at it, and this often gets overlooked too, I feel I'm rambling, but if you look just at in Rockingham County, as I've talked about, well, you have 6 police departments from the different towns. You have JMU, you have HPD, you have Bridgewater has some at the airport, at the college, and I feel like I'm even forgetting somebody. State police. So just the number of sworn law enforcement that are in this locality today, how many encounters will they have with the citizens between traffic stops, calls for service, just in Rockingham, all those different agencies today? It's a lot. It'd be hundreds today. Multiply that by weeks and months and years, it's thousands and thousands, and they go well. You know, all of a sudden, all the ones that went well seem to be negated by the one that didn't. Like, well, all these hundreds or thousands that went okay. Now, one thing goes wrong, one bad apple does a bad thing. We'll deal with that in a specific way instead of saying, overlooking that, hey, it's gone pretty well. We had a guy last week that I'm telling you, we should have shot him. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's a miracle that we didn't. It didn't make the news, but I'm telling you, I was standing right there. He had a shotgun and a machete, and he didn't get shot. We got him under wrap. We got him to give up. Come on in. He's downtown right now. You know, so that's the outcome we want. Nobody wakes up and says, oh, this guy, oh, he's got a shotgun. Bang, bang, I get to shoot him because I get to shoot him. No, we were able to do some other things and fortunately didn't have to shoot the dude. He came real close, but it didn't have to happen. And I can promise you everybody from my agency that was there that morning was glad for that. There wasn't a single person that went home pissed off, daggone, we didn't shoot that guy. No, we don't want to shoot him. We don't want to fight him. We don't want to hurt him. We were talking about Alexander Campbell, the Bridgewaters. Hey, he killed 2 cops. I know he hasn't been found guilty yet, but he's guilty. Quote me on that. He's guilty. But we're as nice to him in the jail as we are as anybody else. We don't want to hurt him. We got a job to do. We treat everybody the same, right? We don't wake up in the morning thinking, who can we harm or what can we do wrong? It's just not the way we function. And the people that function differently, we handle as we should.
Thank you, Bryan. Wow, another great presentation. Thank you, Bryan. I just want to tell a really quick story that I really appreciated. When I called Bryan a couple of weeks ago, and I had to call Bryan once before about a potential bad guy. So I said, Bryan, just want you to know, I'm not calling you this time about a bad guy. And he said, that's fine. Where are they at? Let's go get them. I like that. But no, I've known Bryan for a long time, and he lives what he says, and really appreciate your being here with us today and keeping us informed. And again, Ken, thank you for being here today, and also for some other Rotarians that we haven't seen for a while. It's good to see you back, and we are adjourned.